sitting there going through the contract and the doctrinal statement.
Dancing.
Nothing about growing marijuana on a mission trip. By the way, if you stay throughout my talk, you get triple chapel credits tonight.
Yeah.
I grew up in Moline, Illinois, a small town on the Mississippi River. It's the home of John Deere tractors. That was our claim to fame. And I went to Garfield Grammar School, and every day, Monday through Friday, I ran home to have lunch with my mom. Soup and sandwich while we listened to the Aunt Teresa Story Hour on WDLM radio, broadcasting out of Moody Bible Institute in Chicago. I loved that show. Every day, ran home, flipped down the transistor, and it started with a little boy saying, "Aunt Teresa, tell me a story." And for the next hour, Aunt Teresa would take me into this amazing place with characters, storyline, all these images, and I would just get lost in that story. And then suddenly it was 1 o'clock, I kind of came to it and had to go back to school. I look forward to that hour every single day. It was just this wonderland that Aunt Teresa took me into. And one day, November 22nd, 1963, I was listening to the story, and my mom had gone into the living room doing something, and about 12:15, I heard this voice come on the radio. It says, "We interrupt the Aunt Teresa Story Hour with a news bulletin from Dallas, Texas. President Kennedy has been shot, and he's been taken to Parkland Hospital. We'll bring you further news when it becomes available. We now return you to the Aunt Teresa Story Hour." And I'm sitting there as a third grader thinking, well, what was that about? But first of all, why would anyone want to shoot the president? And my mom walked back in the kitchen right then, and she looked at me and wondered what happened. I said, well, somebody just shot the president. She had the same look on her face. We couldn't quite believe what was going on. But I knew at that moment I had to run and tell somebody. It was like the start of the broadcaster in me. I had to go tell somebody about this event. So I got up. I think we shook hands. We weren't a real emotional family. We're Swedish. I said, "Thank you for the soup and sandwich, Mom." I'm going back to the school.
They love it.
And I ran back to the playground, started yelling to anybody in particular, "The president's been shot. The president's been shot." It was my first broadcast lead, and I don't think I could improve on it today. That said it all. The president's been shot. And all these other kids came running up to me. "Don't you lie. Don't lie like that. That's not true. Don't you be telling lies." I said, "No, it's true. I just heard it on the Aunt Teresa Story Hour." And Principal Bandel, he was our principal, big guy, huge hands with these hairy knuckles. And he used to have this paddle. They called it the Little Stinger. Are you familiar with the Little Stinger? And he drilled holes in the paddle so the wind would go through it, so he could hit us on the tixer harder. The tixer. And I did feel the Little Stinger on a couple of occasions. Okay? So he grabbed me by the collar, pulled me into his office, and said, "Don't you be telling stories like that. That's not true." I said, It is. I just heard it on the Aunt Teresa Story Hour." He said, "No, that's not true." And he actually put me in his closet and shut the door. I was in there for 15 minutes while he found out that, in fact, it was true. That President Kennedy had been shot and, in fact, killed. And then he came out and announced it to the rest of the school. I learned on that day the power of a good story. And also, you can get locked up for telling a story. 30 years later, almost to the day, I was doing an interactive local morning show at WIFR-TV in Rockford, Illinois. And this is after I was a lawyer. My students know I've had a couple of different lives. But anyway.
Yeah.
I was doing this interactive morning show, and as part of my give back to the community, I would go out to nursing homes and rest homes and read a story every Tuesday night. So there's one particular evening, I was at the Fairview Nursing Home, and I was reading a story to about the 25 residents there, 20 or 30. And afterwards, I got up and walked around, and I just talked to each one, kind of get to know them. And I saw this elderly woman in the back of the room. So I thought, well, I got to bring her into this. So I walked to the back. I said, "Hi, my name's Stu. I've "Did you enjoy the story?" And she said, "Well, yes, I did, very much." She said, "I used to do that. I used to tell stories on the radio." And I felt this sensation, kind of like a wind around me, and I didn't even have to ask. But I said, "What's your name?" And she said, "It's Teresa." And I said, "Aunt Teresa." And she said, "Yes." I said, "Aunt Teresa, it's because of you that I'm here tonight. Telling this story." And she said, "Well, that's very nice." And we just kind of looked at each other. There was nothing to say. Sometimes you don't have to say anything in a story. You know, I hear the word random thrown around a lot today. I got this random text. I got this random email. I'm eating some random sandwich.
I love it.
Look at it, it's just random. I was at the ATM the other day. A woman said, "I got these random 50s out of here." So I'll take some of those random 50s. But you know, none of this is random. It's not random that I'm standing here right now with you guys. It certainly wasn't random that I was listening to the Aunt Teresa Story Hour on November 22nd, 1963. And I know it wasn't random when 30 years later, I ran into her in the back of the Fairview nursing home. I also know it wasn't random that 4 years ago, for whatever reason, I went on the internet and there's an ad for a Biola broadcast instructor. I wasn't looking for that. I didn't set out to do that. I never had teaching as a goal. I was doing travel programming for Spike TV. I'm down in the Baja, minding my own business. There it is. And so now I'm teaching the next generation of storytellers. And I think about that every time a new prospective student walks into Studio B with their parents. And it happened just on Saturday once again. And I heard a voice, and it said, "Aunt Teresa, tell me a story." It's all very beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah!